In the previous class, we have studied about commercialization of agriculture and cultivation. We have also studied about indigo. In today's class, we are going to study about the niche system, the Royot method of cultivation, and also about the indigo revolt. The niche system. In the beginning, the planters adopted the niche system of cultivation where the planters produced indigo on lands that they directly controlled, but soon they faced a number of problems. Large areas of fertile lands for indigo cultivation were not available because the lands were already densely populated, and eviction of the tenants led to conflicts. Secondly, they could not even hire labor to work on indigo plantation as the peasants were busy on their fields with their rice cultivation. The third thing is it was very difficult to arrange for ploughs and bullocks as the peasants required these to work on their own fields, so the planters failed to bring large areas of land under indigo cultivation. The failure of the niche method led to its replacement by another method which came to be known as the Royot method. Royot system. Under the Royot method, a contract was signed between the Royot or the village headman and the planters. The Royots were given loans and forced to grow only indigo on at least 25% of the area under their building. Later, the planters informed the peasants that loans could be repaid only by supplying indigo to them at fixed rates. Soon, this system resulted in number of problems. Problems of Riot system. The first problem was peasants growing indigo on their field got a very low price for the product, so they were not able to pay back the loan, which led them into the clutches of moneylenders. Large scale oppressive measures were used, such as holding the cultivator and his family prisoners, burning his house, etc. This inhuman oppression of indigo cultivators forced them to revolt against the British. The second reason was after growing indigo, the same land could not be sown again with rice as the deep roots of indigo had already exhausted the fertility of the soil. The third reason was the indigo planters advanced small sums of money to the peasants and forced them to enter into contracts to cultivate indigo in a part of their land. The planters also took recourse to coercion by beating up, kidnapping, confining, burning, and looting. Most of them maintained armed goons called lathials and were supported by the local police and favored by local magistrates. The Indigo Revolt. In 1859, riots in Bengal refused to grow indigo and refused to pay rents to the planters. At some places, they even attacked indigo factories and socially boycotted those peasants who worked for the planters. Riots decided not to take any advances from the planters to sow indigo. In many villages, headmen had been forced to sign indigo contracts, mobilized the indigo peasants, and fought against the indigo planters. Even zamindars went around the village urging the riots to resist the planters. In September 1860, the peasants refused to grow indigo under duress. The revolt started from a small village in Bengal, Govindpur in Nadia district, and the leadership was provided by Digambar and Bishambar Biswas, ex-employees of the planters. They gave up indigo cultivation, and when the planters sent lathials to attack their village, they fought back with the help of villagers. The indigo uprising soon spread to all parts of Bengal. The peasants even filed cases against the planters. They also boycotted other peasants who were still cultivating indigo. Ultimately, the planters could not withstand the collective might of the peasants and began shutting down factories. Indigo plantation at this time gradually moved to Bihar, whereas late as 1917 Mahatma Gandhi took up the cause of the indigo cultivators against the local planters in Champaran. That's it for today's class. Thank you.